Good morning, I'm Angelo Castro III.
I'm Angela, and we are the Castros.
We bring you the news.
And the views that make you think.
Sometimes we agree.
Sometimes we don't.
This is News and Views.
And here are today's headlines.
The Senate Blue Ribbon Committee is set to resume its inquiry into flood control anomalies on November 14.
Senator Amy Marcos says some of the witnesses will recant their testimonies. President Marcos launches a major cleanup and rehabilitation drive dubbed Oplan Kontra Baha.
The Philippine peso falls to its weakest level, making it among the worst performing currencies in Southeast Asia.
A total of 346 overseas Filipino workers trafficked in Myanmar. Scam hubs have been repatriated to the Philippines.
First in the news, DPWH Secretary Vince Dizon says around 40 officials and contractors involved in flood control scandal could face imprisonment before Christmas. Here's the report.
The Independent Commission for Infrastructure will prioritize the investigation of 80 out of more than 400 suspected ghost flood control projects across the country. According to ICI Special Advisor and former PNP Chief Rodolfo Azurin, the projects allegedly involve 15 to 18 contractors previously identified by President Bongbong Marcos. The commission is also set to visit Ilocos and Cebu this week to inspect flood control projects in Central Cebu, Cebu City, and Mandaue, areas that were severely affected by recent typhoons.
Titingnan natin yung bakit ganun yung nangyari despite sa napakalaki ng funding na dinala doon. Sabi nga ni Governor, 26 billion plus. So, medyo yun ang pinapatingnan ni ICI Chairman. We are now getting yung mga bid documents through the help of the CIDG and the NBI kasi meron silang subpoena power. So we need to study yung bid document. Ibabangga namin yan dun sa actual na implementation.
The Department of Public Works and Highways will likewise submit a report to the ICI on unimplemented projects in Cebu, despite the presence of a flood control master plan dating back to 2017. This was announced by DPWH Secretary Vince Dizon following the ICI's High Command Conference in Camp Crame, Quezon City, which was attended by officials from the Ombudsman, DOJ, NBI, PNP, and AFP.
Ang purpose ng meeting na to is paano mapabilis lalo at ma-expand yung coverage. Kasi ang dami. No, ang daming kailangan ikutin all over the country. And sa dami ng mga ibang mga kailangan gawin, kailangan systematic yung pag-iikot. So, and kailangan ma-cover lahat. You can just imagine, libo-libo yung mga proyekto, doon pa lang sa mga suspected ghost, 400 plus na yon. Although marami nang na-validate sila, General Azurin at yung kanilang mga iba't ibang teams, ano pa rin, kailangan bilisan pa rin.
Dizon also denied claims that the participation of the PNP and AFP was due to security concerns.
Sila ang initially na nag-validate, di ba? Dahil nga, sila yung nasa ground, sila yung nandun mismo, sila ang pinakamaraming mga tauhan sa iba't ibang mga lugar sa bansa. So, sila yung initially nag-validate, so kailangan kasama pa rin sila.
The DPWH chief further stressed that some individuals will be spending Christmas behind bars. Dizon estimated that around 40 people could face imprisonment for their alleged roles in fraudulent flood control projects in Bulacan and Oriental Mindoro. Among those expected to be charged are former DPWH officials and engineers Henry Alcantara, Bryce Hernandez, and JP Mendoza, as well as the couple Curly and Sara Discaya, and St. Timothy Construction. Also named were former Congressman Zaldico, SunWest Incorporated, Wawaw Builders, and several others.
Senator Amy Marcos says some flood control scandal witnesses may recant testimonies when the Senate hearing resumes on Friday, November 14. Here's the report.
Senator Amy Marcos revealed that some witnesses in the flood control scandal are allegedly planning to retract their testimonies when the Senate Blue Ribbon Committee resumes its inquiry on Friday, November 14. When asked if surprise witness Orly Gutesa was the person she referred to as planning to recant, Senator Amy said,
alam na ninyo kung sino yung pinakamatindi ang testimonya.
The Marine Sergeant was supposedly a former security consultant for resigned ACO Bicol Party List Representative Zaldico. Gutesa claimed to have delivered flood control kickbacks, which he called basura, to Co and former House Speaker Martin Romualdez.
Dahil pre-measure, tinakot ang pamilya at halos tinutukan ang asawa at anak.
To clarify, yung pamilya na tinakot ay kay Gutesa, kay Corny Gutesa?
O basta, yun na yun. Abangan na lang ang susunod na kabanata. Ang mangyayari ngayon, magre-recant ang mga testigo. Panoorin ninyo, sigurado ako dyan.
Senator Amy further stated that certain individuals who wish to speak are being deliberately prevented from doing so.
May iba pang mga testigo na pinipigilan na magsalita at ayaw kumbidahin. Basta alam ko na magbabaliktaran ang mga testigo.
The senator also disclosed that former House Speaker Martin Romualdez had initially planned to testify before the committee but later decided to back out.
Nagbago ata isip, nahiya din sa sarili. Kasi ang dating narinig ko, magiging state witness, siya ang magiging star witness, bibigyan ng witness protection. Pwede ba naman yon? Linuloko na tayo ng lubus-lubusan.
When asked for a response, Senate Blue Ribbon Committee Chairperson Senator Ping Lacson said he would not engage with Marcos' remarks.
President Marcos has launched Oplan Contra Baha, a massive cleanup and dredging drive to tackle Metro Manila's long-standing flood problem. Here's the report.
Heavy rains once again triggered widespread flooding across Metro Manila, prompting the government to launch a major clean-up and rehabilitation drive, Oplan Contra Baha. The program aims to clear and desilt over 120 clogged waterways and repair non-operational pumping stations across the National Capital Region within the next 9 months. It will be funded with an initial 2.5 billion pesos and covers not only Metro Manila but also flood-prone provinces such as Cebu, Bacolod, Bulacan, Pampanga, Davao, Pangasinan, and Cagayan de Oro.
Ngunit, even after that 9 months, ay patuloy lang, regular na ang paglinis, pag-desiltation, paglinis ng basura. Lahat ito ay patuloy natin gagawin. Hindi natin pwedeng tigilan dahil alam naman natin umiipon pa.
President Marcos personally inspected the Balihatar Creek in Parañaque, joined by private sector leaders Manny V. Pangilinan and Ramon Ang, who have committed equipment and resources to support the effort.
Sila lang nandito po si MVP dahil sila ang tumutulong at mabilis gumalaw. Kaya't nandito si Manny Pangilinan, nandito si Ramon Ang, ay silang dalawa ay nag-volunteer na sila na ang gagawa sa marami dito sa kailangan na gawin na trabaho. But of course, they have to do this in coordination with our local government executive.
The president revealed that some flood control machines purchased as early as 2018 had been left unused and ordered that they now be deployed.
Kailangan daw itago for the big one. Pero ito na yata yung big one when it comes to flooding. Ano pang inaantay natin?
Public Works Secretary Vince Dizon told the Big Story that the massive operation will unclog esteros and rivers that have been choked by decades of garbage and silt.
Napakababaw na po ng ating mga ilog, ng ating mga estero at hindi na po nakakadaloy ng mabilis at ng tama ang tubig, lalong-lalo na kapag tag-ulan at bumabaha.
He added that within the 9-month campaign, even partial clearing will have a significant impact on flood reduction in the capital.
Tuloy-tuloy po ang gagawin natin dito. Initial pa lang ho itong 9 months, pero tingin namin sa loob pa lang ng 9 months, just by clearing the waterways alone, malaki na po ang magiging epekto nito sa pag-mitigate o pagbabawas ng baha sa Metro Manila.
Buti naman naisipan nila gawin yan. Pero
on a national scale pa yan.
Ang nakakalungkot, it took 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 massive storms and
a lot of lives.
And that what was that habagat
Lost
yung rain,
lives,
yung habagat na yon, 'di ba? With a lot of flooding to wake up government officials para mag-dredge.
Yeah.
Di ba? Dapat that's a standard given. Alam mo naman, year in, year out.
And also, yung mga LGUs, dapat sila ngayon naglilinis sa mga estero nila.
Year in, year out, alam mong may ulan at may baha. Tapos, naghintay ka pa ng isang dilubyo at nagalit ang tao at saka kang gumalaw.
Well, mamaya, pag-usapan pa natin yan. But residents of some areas in Cagayan have yet to recover from floods brought by Super Typhoon Uwan. For the details, we have mobile journal Merimon Reyes reporting on the ground. Merimon? Can you hear us?
Hello, Angela. Magandang umaga. Oo. Ngayon dito sa Cagayan, tirik na tirik na ang araw pero nananatili pa rin na may mga barangay, nasa 20 pa rin sa 49 na barangay sa Tuguegarao City ang nananatiling apektado. Ibig sabihin, bukod doon sa tala kahapon na 44 out of 49 barangays ang apektado, bunsod nga nitong pagbaha dahil kaya sa dumaang bagyong Uwan, nasa 20 pa rin yung sinasabing meron pa rin daw presensya ng pagbaha, hindi pa talaga fully subsided. Pero ang nakita rin natin sa huling tala ngayon, yung bilang ng mga pamilyang binaha, umakyat na nasa 7,374 na ang bilang or equivalent ito sa 22,296 individuals. Sa ngayon, yung mga pamilyang nananatili pa rin sa mga evacuation center, 1,200 o 4,393 na mga individual. 34 evacuation centers ang still active, 10 ang deactivated, samantala 15 pa rin ang on standby. Nadaan din natin kanina yung Punton Bridge and so far bumaba na rin yung tubig doon nung ilog Cagayan, 8.2 meters na siya. Pero nananatili pa rin yung abiso ng lokal na pamahalaan na maaari pa rin naman dumaan doon ng mga motorista bukod lamang sa mga truck, sa mga trailer truck, saka yung mga punong pampasaherong bus. Sa mga nakikita rin natin ngayon dito sa daan, nakikita natin yung ilang mga residente na tuloy-tuloy pa rin yung kanilang pagliligpit, lalong-lalo na sa ilang mga lugar na nakita natin kahapon, putikan dahil nga dito sa bagyo. Balik sa inyo.
Meron mo may mga videos dito kami nakikita at binanggit mo mga places dyan sa Cagayan na hanggang ngayon baha pa. Ang tanong dito is year in, year out ba? Laging nagbabaha dyan at tila ba't walang ginagawa ang LGU para remedyohan yan?
Oo, ang nasabi sa atin sa mga nakausap natin, hindi naman na raw talaga sa kanila bago yan. Yung pagbagyo, mahina man daw, malakas, o kahit yung simpleng pag-ulan, pinakainaantabayanan talaga nila yung tubig na agos, lalong-lalo yung mula sa mga kalapit na lalawigan dito sa norte. Kaya ang isa rin nagiging problema nila, yung iba kasing mga lugar dito, meron ding backflow mula sa mga baradong drainage, kaya nagiging contributor din yun dun sa mga tubig baha naman mula sa umapaw na ilog, mula sa tubig na pinakawalan ng Magat Dam. Kaya yan yung isa sa pinakatinitignan nila na minsan hindi raw nila problema yung ihip ng hangin o kaya naman yung pag-ulan. Yung tubig talagang inaabangan nila na babagsak dito sa Tuguegarao City. Catch basin kasi talaga ito, lalong-lalo dito sa norte.
Merimon, paano naman yung mga kababayan natin na nasiraan mismo ng kanilang mga bahay? Dun sa ibang mga towns, sa ibang mga areas na balita natin, sabi ng LGU, they'll be given construction materials as form of their ayuda. Ganyan din ba sa Cagayan? And paano yung magiging mechanism nun? Because right now, as you've said sa mga report mo, ay hanggang ngayon, clearing operations pa rin ng mga tao dyan.
Ang nasabi din sa atin dito ng CSWD, tinitingnan din nila kung yung mga barangay na apektado, for the case muna din ng Tuguegarao City, maaari ng balikan ng mga pamilya. Kasi, for example, yung mga nalibutan natin sa may Centro Gis, sa isang barangay Anapunan East, yung ilang mga bahagi kasi dito sa Tuguegarao, wala na raw talagang nakatira. Nga natin na yung iba naman, nakakahanap sila ng option. Yung meron sila kasi ginagawa rin na adopt a neighbor. Na kapag may oras ng kalamidad, maaari silang tumira muna sa kilala nila, kapitbahay nila, o kamag-anak na mas safe yung location kumpara dito. And so far naman, ang nasabi rin sa atin dito ni Mayor Myla Tingke, tinututukan din naman nila, hindi lang pati yung follow-up ng mga relief, especially doon sa mga hindi lumikas, kasi ang nagiging, may mga prepositions naman ng mga relief packs sa 49 barangay sa Tuguegarao, plus meron ding manggagaling sa DSWD, even yung mga manggagaling naman sa mga private entity na nagpapamahagi ng kanilang mga tulong. So hindi pa naman daw talaga natatapos yung pagpapaabot ng tulong sa mga nag-evacuate man o sa nanatili sa kanilang mga tirahan.
Alright, thank you for that report. Merimon Reyes reporting from Cagayan.
Right. Kasi until now, yung nga sinasabi natin, right after the typhoon, yung rebuilding yan ang mahirap din. Di mo alam kung saan ka magsisimula. So right now, most of the areas that were affected by these two typhoons are still in their clearing operations, diba? Yung mga roads and
alam na natin yung Cagayan, Periñalid at sa catch basin, pero ang punto ng iba doon is sana hindi sila gumawa ng parang maglagay ng wall o ng catch wall or ng dike or to at least mitigate. Alam naman natin hindi naman totally stop yung baha.
Right, in another news, the Philippine peso has fallen to its weakest level on record. It closed at 59.17 pesos to the US dollar on Wednesday, breaking the previous record of 59.13 on October 28. Analysts say the peso is now among the worst performing currencies in Southeast Asia this month. The depreciation means higher costs for imports and foreign debt payments, though families of OFWs may benefit from stronger remittance values.
Joining us now is Emmanuel Leyco, an economist and senior fellow at the Center for People Empowerment in Governance, to help us understand what's behind the peso's record drop and what this means for consumers and the broader economy. Sir, thank you for joining us.
Good morning. Sir, nakamute po ata kayo. We can't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
There you
better,
go.
Yeah, better.
But a little...
Okay, thank you.
Perfect.
Okay.
All right, thank you for joining us, sir. Of course, I'd like to ask you, what are the main drivers or factors? I mean, it was mentioned, of course, several things, but what do you think has pushed the peso to its weakest level?
Well, a number of factors to consider when we are looking at the peso-dollar exchange rate. Well, first of all is the demand. Do we have a strong demand for dollars than our strong demand for peso? Is there enough supply of dollars versus enough supply of pesos? Of course, there's so much supply of peso, while I don't think we have enough supply of dollars compared to what we need. A major indicator of our demand for dollars will be our imports. Our net trade, we are a net importer than an exporter. In other words, we are importing more goods than we are exporting that we can earn dollars from. And also, considering that we have dollar remittances coming from our OFW relatives, it seems that it is not enough to cover all our importation. We have a trade deficit. And therefore, if we need to pay our imports with our dollars, there might not be enough for us to go around in terms of the current dollars coming in versus dollars going out. Of course, we have the dollar reserves, which is still, I think, at a healthy level of over $100 billion. And that should be enough to cover our imports. However, currencies are being traded, and a major factor here is the expectation or the sentiment of currency traders on the strength of the Philippine peso. We also have to consider, just a few hours ago, the U.S. government ended its lockdown, and therefore the U.S. government will now start spending, will now start funding the programs that were stopped during the lockdown.
Right.
And therefore, more dollars will be required in order to support that.
All right. Oh, we have a lot of questions, but unfortunately, we need to go to this press con that the President is doing right now. But we'll get back to you. Maraming salamat po sa inyong oras, Sir Emmanuel Leyco, an economist and senior fellow at the Center for People Empowerment in Governance. Maraming salamat po.
Maraming salamat po. Good morning.
Now let's get to the ongoing President's report.
Na inspeksyon ang mga iba't ibang flood control project. Napunta ako sa Iloilo, nakapunta ako sa Kalumpit at saka sa Baliwag. At doon maliwanag na isang mga halimbawa ng mga flood control project na hindi tinapos o ghost project talaga, hindi man naumpisahan at naging basehan ng ating pagtuloy-tuloy na pag-imbestiga. Noong September 2, nakumpiska ng Bureau of Customs ang 13 luxury vehicle ni Diskaya. At dahil sa irregularity sa importation at sa documentation, itong mga luxury vehicle na ito ay i-auction na Ang pagkaintindi ko, merong 7 na i-auction next week at saka susunod na yung iba sa susunod na ibang linggo. Sa office naman ng Ombudsman, ano yung ating ginawa para pananagutin itong mga may gumagawa ng kalokohan? Sa office ng Ombudsman, nakapag-refer na ng reklamo ang DPWH. Galing sa DPWH ito noong September 8 dahil sa mga irregularidad sa 5 proyekto base sa Special Audit Report at Fraud Audit Report ng COA. Mula sa ahensya ng DPWH First District Engineering Office, ang mga sangkot dito sina Henry Alcantara, Bryce Hernandez, JP Mendoza, Paul Jason Duya. Ang mga kinatawan naman sa mga kontratista ang kasabwat nila ay sa St. Timothy Construction, Wawaw Builders at saka Sims Construction Trading. Lahat yung mga pangalan na yan, matagal na nating naririnig at ngayon ay sila ay napatunayan, nakasabwat dito sa mga ginagawa sa mga flood control project na hindi tama ang pagka-bid, hindi tama ang pagkakontrata, hindi tama ang pagka-implementasyon, hindi tama ang pagbayad. Isang buwan matapos na malunsad yung website, binuo natin ang Independent Commission for Infrastructure. Dahil nalaman natin matindi ang sistema ng korupsyon, hindi lang sa flood control project, kundi pati rin sa ibang proyektong pang-infrastruktura ng gobyerno, kaya ginawa po natin yung ICI. Yung ICI na yan ay para imbestigahan lahat ng infrastructure projects na kailangan tignan dahil may question kung tama ba ang pagkagawa. At ipapagpatuloy ng ICI yung kanilang na tuloy-tuloy naman ang trabaho ng ICI. Kung maalala ninyo, ICI is investigative. So tuloy-tuloy ang kanilang investigasyon. Kung ano yung finding nila sa investigasyon nila, ipinapasa nila sa DOJ at saka sa Ombudsman. Sa parehong araw, nagsampa ng kaso ang DPWH sa Ombudsman laban sa 20 opisyal ng DPWH ng Bulacan First District Engineering Office at 5 pribadong individual dahil sa paglabag sa Anti-Graft and Corruption Practices and Corrupt Practices Act, Revised Penal Code at Government Procurement Reform Act. Kasama dyan si Henry Alcantara, Bryce Hernandez, JP Mendoza at ang mag-asawang Diskaya. Mula naman noong September 15 hanggang November 5, ang Anti-Money Laundering Council, yung AMLAC, ay nakakuha ng 7 freeze order mula sa Court of Appeals. Saklaw ng freeze order na ito ang kabuuang halaga ng 6.3 billion pesos. Nagsimula na ang Solgen na magbuo ng forfeiture case para itong 6.3 billion pesos ay mababawi ng pamahalaan at itong perang ninakaw ay maibabalik sa taong bayan. Saklaw ng freeze order ito, 6.3 billion. At noong September 18, nakapag-refer tayo muli sa Office of the Ombudsman ng ikalawang batch ng mga kasong kriminal ukol sa 2 maanomaliang proyekto. Ito ang kinakasangkutan ng 6 na opisyal ng DPWH at 2 pribadong kontratista. Andito yata, ayan, these are the cases. No? Mula naman noong September 29 hanggang November 6, nagsumiti na ang ICI sa Office of the Ombudsman ng criminal at administrative cases laban sa 37 individual na konektado sa mga maanomaliang FCPs. Kabilang dito mga kasong graft and corruption, malversation, falsification, plunder, paglabag sa Code of Conduct for Public Officers. Samantala, nag-submit din ang DPWH sa Philippine Competition Commission ang 12 kaso ng bid manipulation at bid rigging noong October 3. Kinasasangkutan ng 6 na pribadong kumpanya. Dito pa lang sa mga kasong ito, makakabawi tayo ng 3 hanggang 5 bilyong piso. ang penalty na pag sinama-sama natin lahat ng penalty ng lahat ng kaso ng mga bid rigging so far, baka meron pang idadagdag diyan sa kasalukuyan pa lang yan, ay makakabawi tayo ng 3 to 5 billion pesos in terms of fines. Nito namang October 23, nagsampa ng kasong malversation at paglabag sa Anti-Graft and Corrupt Practices Act ang DPWH laban sa 21 opisyal ng DPWH La Union 2nd District Engineering Office at Davao Occidental District Engineering Office at 4 na pribadong individual. Moises Tabukol ng Silver Wolves Construction Corporation, Alvin Diego ng Silver Wolves Construction Corporation, Maria Roma Angeline Rimando ng St. Timothy Construction Corporation, Cesara Rowena Discaya ng St. Timothy Construction Corporation. Ang sabi ni Ombudsman Remulla ay meron ding person of interest in the person of Congressman Eric Yap na dating Committee on Appropriations Chairman mula 2019 hanggang 2022. Nito namang November, sinampahan ng DPWH ang 6 na kumpanyang ito na 3 kaso ng bid manipulation at bid rigging. Mula naman November 16, nagsampa naman ang Bureau of Internal Revenue, ang BIR natin, ng 10 kaso sa DOJ laban sa mga opisyal ng DPWH at mga kontraktor. Umaabot sa 8.86 billion pesos ang kanilang tax liabilities. Ito ang mga tax na ang buwis na hindi nila binayaran at nakita ng BIR upon investigation. At ngayon, nakasuhan ngayon sila upang mabawi ang kanilang utang sa gobyerno dahil sa buwis na hindi nila ibinayad. At siyempre, may mga multa yan dahil sila hindi nagbayad. Ito ay tax liabilities na sangkot sa mga kasong tax evasion at failure to file accurate information. Tinutukan din ng administrasyon ang mga reforma para sa mga ahensya upang matiyak na magagampanan nila ang kanilang mga tungkulin at maiiwasan ang mga anomalya at irregularidad sa mga proyekto. Sa Public Works, sa DPWH, nagpatupad ng blacklisting mula sa mga kontrata ng gobyerno sa lahat ng kontratistang sangkot sa ghost or substandard na mga proyekto. Noong October 23, formal na nakipagtulungan ang ahensya sa AMLAC upang mabantayan at maibalik ang pondo ng bayan na nawala dahil sa korupsyon. Naglabas ito ng special issuance of the construction materials price data noong October 23. Layo nitong pababain ang mga presyo ng mga materyales para sa construction ng mga proyekto ng pamahalaan. Aabot sa 50% ang maibabawas sa presyo upang maiwasan ang overpricing. Dahil talagang titignan natin, market price na. Ang hindi pwedeng ibahin o baguhin o masyadong malayo sa market price ang mga materyales na ginagamit dito sa mga flood control project at sa mga lahat ng infrastructure project. Ang ginawa naman ng DTI matapos na kanselihan ang mga lisensya ng 9 na kontratistang konektado kay Sara Discaya, ipinatupad ang mas mahigpit na mga regulasyon sa kontraktor. Unang-una, napakasimple at nakakapagtaka na ito ay pinabayaan at it was a very strange development na ito ay that was allowed na ipinagbawal na ngayon natin, which is actually bawal naman talaga, pero hindi masyadong hindi ini-enforce. Pero pinagbawal natin ng matibay na mga may-ari ng construction company ay uupo, ay maging membro ng pickup board. Dahil maliwanag ng maliwanag, pagka ikaw ay may construction company, tapos ikaw nagbibigay ng accreditation, lisensya sa mga constructor, ay napakaliwanag ng conflict of interest. Kaya hindi na natin papayagan yan ulit. Upang masiguro may susulong ang katapatan, integridad at pananagutan sa pamahalaan, nagsasagawa tayo ng mga reforma sa iba't ibang sektor ng ating bansa. Bumubuo tayo ng transparency portal upang makapagbigay sa publiko ng mas malawak na access sa impormasyon tungkol sa mga proyekto, kabilang ang mga detalye hinggil sa mga kontratista. Nagpapatupad ng tanggapan, lokasyon at status ng proyekto. Ibig sabihin, babantayan natin ng husto every step of the way. Bawat hakbang sa prosesong ito ay babantayan natin na mabuti para pag may nakita tayong hindi tama nagawa o against the rules and regulations, ay makikita natin kaagad at hindi na natin pababayaan na makikita lang after 2-3 years, kagaya na nangyayari ngayon. Magpapatupad din tayo ng mga systematic na reforma sa 3 pangunahing larangan upang maipabuti ang transparency, ang security ng ating datos, ang pakikilahok ng mga mamamayan sa pagsusubaybay ng ating mga proyekto. Mga reforma sa design process upang mas mapabuti ang papaplano, maiwasan ang mga risk, at masiguro na data-driven ang mga batayan at pagdidisenyo. Mga reforma sa bidding at sa procurement upang mapalakas ang kompetisyon, katapatan, integridad at maiwasan ang mga possible risk factor sa buong proseso ng procurement. Mga reforma sa proseso ng pagbabayad upang matiyak naman na ang pondo na nilalabas natin para sa mga proyekto ay talagang tapos na. Dahil marami tayong nakita, completed, bayad na, hindi mo naman mahanap yung project, ghost project. O kung may makita kang man project, hindi kumpleto, substandard. Kaya patitibayin natin ang proseso para tiyakin natin na lahat ng kontrata ay ma-implement na mabuti. Mga reforma rin sa proseso ng pagbabayad para tiyakin natin. Yun ang ating mga gagawin. Meron tayong nakita na bagong smart technology na ginagamit na ang AI. Ito ay titignan lang. Ang tinitignan niya, yung AI, tinitignan niya yung proseso ng kontrata. At pagka merong hindi tama ang takbo ng proseso ng kontrata, ay magfa-flag yan. Kailangan magfa-flag. Tignan nyo ulit ito. Dahil mukhang may problema, hindi tama ang ginawa. At may question kung talaga bang merong project na ganyan. May nag-question kung merong maganda ba ang pag-implement ng proyekto. Kaya't gagamitin natin lahat ng paraan na nasa atin, pati nga hanggang AI, lahat ng smart technology na ating nakikita na lumalabas, ay gagamitin natin lahat yan para inspection. Una, meron tayong smart technology para tignan kung ano ba talaga ang standard, kung maganda ang pagkaayos. Ito tinitignan yung kung talagang linalagyan ng rebar, kung makapal talaga yung konkreto, yung semento sa tamang specification. Yung isa pa naman, yung isang smart technology na gagamitin natin, yung aking nabanggit, titingin sa proseso ng kontrata para pag may nakitang hindi tama, ay makikita natin kaagad. Maglilista yan, makikita natin, babalikan natin at imbestigahan natin bakit ganyan ang nangyari. Alam nyo, lahat naman tayo ay nais natin na makamtan ng kaagad ang hustisya. Ngunit kung may aral tayong natutunan sa nakaraan, ito ay ang mas mabuti na maging mabusisi tayo at tumagal ng kaunti kaysa magmadali at magkamali. Alam mo nyo, kinakatakutan namin na yung mga alam natin na talagang kasabwat dito sa kawalanghiyang ito ay makakalusot sa kaso dahil because of a legal technicality. Dahil nagkamali tayo sa pagbuo ng ebidensya, dahil hindi maganda ang ating pagpresenta ng kaso, o nakalimutan natin pumirma sa isang dokumento, yung mga maliliit na bagay na ganyan, nalalaglag ang kaso dahil dyan. Kayo, mga reporter, alam na nyo, nangyayari talaga yan. Kaya tinitiyak namin na pagka kami ay sumampa ng kaso, yung kasong yan ay hanggang sa dulo ay matibay ang kaso at kung sino man ang mga guilty ay sila naman talaga ay mananagot at kung kailangan at kung huhusgahan sila ng korte ay makukulong sila. Sa bawat segundo na ating ibinibigay sa investigasyon, tinitiyak natin na ang bawat kasong isasampa laban sa mga abusado ay may sapat na ebidensya at hindi hahantong sa pagbabasura ng kaso. Yun ang pinakamasamang resulta. Yung alam natin na guilty, ngunit nagkamali tayo sa pagbuo ng kaso, nagkamali ang DOJ o nakalimutan, ay mawawala, masisira yung kaso natin, hindi natin mapapasagot yung taong yun o yung kumpanyang yun. Pananagutin natin lahat ng may kasalanan. Ibabalik natin. So tatlo talagang ating ginawa rito. Unang-una, sinampahan na natin ng kaso yung mga may ebidensya tayo na meron silang kinalaman dito sa mga korupsyon na ito. Pangalawa ay tinitiyak natin na ang kanilang ninakaw na pondo ay maibabalik sa pamahalaan upang magamit sa tama ang mga perang yan. At naglagay tayo ng mga reforma para itong mga pangyayaring ito ay hindi na mauulit. Kaya yan yung tatlong talagang tinututukan natin na bagay. At ito, yung aking mga nabanggit ngayon, ay yan, ay ang magiging resulta dito sa ating pag-focus, pagbigay ng pansin dito sa tatlo. Unang-una, mapapanagot ang mga kasama rito, mga kasabwat dito sa korupsyon. Pangalawa, maibabawi ng gobyerno ang pera na ninakaw nila. Pangatlo, gumawa tayo ng reforma para lahat na itong klaseng korupsyon na ganito ay hindi na mauulit. Kaya yung mga taong yan na kasabwat dyan, ito, mga walang hiyang ito, na nagnanakaw ng pera ng bayan, tapos na ang maliligaya ninyong araw. Hahabulin na namin kayo. Okay, that's it. I think I have... it's already time.
Thank you very much. Maraming salamat, Mr. President. Ladies and gentlemen, the President is running a tight schedule today, as you know. So we'll just take...
I'll take the question.
All right, that was the recently concluded President's report regarding the anomalous flood control projects. This is 3 months after he actually said, showed the public na gagawa nga sila ng dahilan para ma-address itong corruption scandal na ito. And this, actually 3 months after SONA.
Nagpakita pa siya matrix behind him as mga link, progress, yun yung mga kakasuhan.
Yeah. And he even stated na sumbong sa Pangulo website has already logged 20,078 reports. And they have already validated 8,329 reports out of 855 published flood control projects. And he even reiterated then before we resumed here, sabi niya, 3 bagay yung focus ng kanyang administrasyon since they started this investigation. Number 1 would be mapanagot yung mga kasabwat dito sa anomalous flood control project. Number 2 would be mabawi yung mga perang ninakaw. And number 3 ay gagawa daw ng mga reforma to make sure that in the future, hindi na ito mauulit. Ayan, sasagot daw ngayon si Pangulong Bongbong Marcos sa ilang mga questions ng media.
Halaga. Yun pa lang ang ating nakikita. Pero ako, nakakatiyak ako, marami pa tayong mababawi dito. So patuloy namin gagawin yan.
Thank you, Mr. President. The next question from Kat.
Good morning, Mr. President. Sir, you mentioned in the latter part of your speech na tapos na ang maliligayang araw nyo, hahabulin namin kayo. The nation's question is, why is former Congressman Zaldico's passport not yet canceled? And what is the government doing to actually either convince him or force him to return to the Philippines?
I think that's best directed at the lawyer because it's a legal answer. And the legal answer is because hindi pa nasampahan ng kaso, therefore the request for the cancellation of his passport cannot yet be made. However, when that time comes, we will immediately cancel his passport. I'm not a lawyer, so I'm not the best person to explain it. But that's the procedure. You have to give grounds for the cancellation of the passport, and those grounds will be based on the cases that will be filed against him.
Sir, just a follow-up question on that point. Sir, how convinced are you that Zaldico is the most guilty in this case, or are you somehow amenable to extending an option for him to become a state witness?
I'm sorry, extending?
An option for him to become a state witness.
That option is always there, except for them who are the most guilty.
Do you think he is?
I don't want. And then pag sinabi ko, sasagutin kita, sasabihin nyo, prejudged. Let the courts do their work. Let the judges do their work. Yun ang ano sa kanila.
Mr. President, one more question, please. While we navigate this corruption scandal, the economy is taking a hit.
Yep.
The peso hit an all-time low yesterday. Third quarter GDP is at 4%. The stock market is at pandemic levels. What is the plan to recover investor confidence? At ano ho ang plano para sa economic recovery?
Well, the reason that we had that is that there really was a downturn in economic activity. You have to remember that it's not only because of these problems. Yung bagyo, yung nawala na working days na sa ekonomiya natin because of climate change. And you have to also remember the global situation. We are not the only ones suffering the shocks that come from the new trade structure that has been imposed on the rest of the world. And so we are all adjusting to that. Kaya yung mga growth rate na lahat ng grupo all around the world is falling. But marami tayong measures na ginawa because the public spending now will be increased, and to make sure that by the end of the year that the levels of public spending are according to our original plan. So mababawi natin yung nawala sa third quarter.
Sir, one more point on your presentation. Very obvious, very noticeable po na marami sa mga pangalan binanggit ninyo, DPWH officials, contractors, pero kakonte, if at all, yung mga nabanggit na legislators who are.
Well, no, they're part of the list. We'll give you the complete list. I just didn't go through them because there are like 37 of them. So you'll get, as I said, you'll get a briefer, which will give you more detail on all of the things that I've said today.
Is the former speaker included in the list, sir?
I don't think so, because the only evidence that has been made against him is in the Senate. So I don't know. No, with the speaker, no. Not as yet. Not as yet. If something else comes out, then he might have to be answerable for something. So, again, we don't file cases for optics. We file cases to put people in jail or to make people answer. I know that there are many, many suggestions of who else we should file cases against. Well, we're fine with that. Provide us the evidence and we will file cases against them. Kaya sinabi ko, napakahalaga yung sumbong sa Pangulo dahil marami kaming nakukuhang impormasyon dyan. So, pagpatuloy ninyo yung inyong pagsumbong. At bigyan nyo kami ng lahat ng ebidensya na meron kayo para magamit natin, para kasuhan kahit sino. Wala naman, walang immune dito walang exempted dito sa mga investigasyon na ito. All right?
All right, thank you very much, Mr. President. That concludes our press conference. Good morning, everyone. Thank you.
To the President, who just took some questions from several of our colleagues in media. One of the noticeable questions also was, sino ba't hindi daw binanggit yung legislators? Pero sabi ni PBBM, meron naman silang briefer. And we will all get a briefer as to who are the 37 na kakasuhan. And kinonfirm, as of now, wala pa daw si Speaker Romualdez sa mga kakasuhan. As of now, yun ang sabi niya.
And of course, before he ended his speech, his report earlier, he said very such powerful words. Sabi niya, sa mga nagnanakaw ng pera ng bayan, tapos na ang maliligayang araw na nyo. Of course, these are, as I've said, powerful words, but saan dadalhin itong powerful words na ito? No? Because until now, a lot of people are saying, of course, ang kanilang hinaing is until now, wala pa rin naman talagang nakakasuhan. And we all know yung former DPWH Secretary ay umalis na papunta ng US. Although sabi niya hanggang December 17 lang siya because he is just accompanying his wife who is undergoing a medical operation, medical process. So sabi niya, we are not filing cases, we don't file cases for optics.
They file cases to put people in jail.
And he also said in his report kanina, he reiterated na they're making sure na yung mga ebidensya that they are gathering as of the moment ay hindi makakalusot sa mga legal technicalities, even daw yung mga smallest details like yung hindi napirmahan or hindi dumaan sa tamang proseso, they're making sure na these evidence that they are gathering ay
airtight, kumbaga airtight.
Hindi na daw na at the end of the day ay biglang mawawala yung kaso because dun sa legal technicalities na yan.
Airtight cases, kumbaga.
We'll be back with more stories after the break. Keep it here on One News.
Welcome back. You're still watching News and Views here on One News. Lawyer Israelito Torion insists Senator Bato de la Rosa is not hiding despite reports of a possible ICC arrest warrant. Here's the report.
Following reports of an arrest warrant from the International Criminal Court, Senator Bato de la Rosa remains out of public sight, but his lawyer Israelito Torion insists on the big story. He is not in hiding.
He just want to secure more facts, knowing the different messages being given to us by the administration. A high government official, the ombudsman himself, who is supposed to be an impeachable officer and who's supposed to be the protector of the people, but is now acting like the unofficial spokesperson of the ICC, claims that there is a warrant of arrest against him. So it is just but natural for Senator Bato to verify what are the facts.
Torion also confirmed filing a petition before the Supreme Court, seeking a temporary restraining order against the DOJ and other agencies from enforcing any potential warrant.
There is a clear and urgent necessity for the court to act because of grave and irreparable injury that may happen or that may arise or that may occur insofar as the rights of the petitioner is concerned.
Asked if he would advise the senator to seek refuge inside the Senate, Torion said no, citing possible legal risks following palace statements that it would be illegal. Meanwhile, Senator Amy Marcos came to de la Rosa's defense, calling the ombudsman's statements a big farce.
Ang malaking kabulastugan ng pinagsasabi nila na may balita, na merong warrant, na narinig nila, na may kopya, na hindi maipakita, pero sinentensyahan na kung anong gagawin. Ano bang kalokohan yan? Kung may warrant, ilabas. Kung walang warrant, tumahimik na kayo. Tantanan na ninyo kami. Ano ba naman pananakot ng ginagawa yan?
De la Rosa has yet to appear in Senate sessions, though Senate President Tito Soto clarified that senators are not required to explain their absences. He is expected to attend the plenary debates on the Department of National Defense budget next week. The last time De la Rosa was seen in public was during relief operations in Cebu for victims of Typhoon Tino.
A total of 346 overseas Filipino workers were repatriated from Myanmar after reportedly falling victim to human trafficking scam hoax. Of these, 127 have been confirmed as victims, while 219 are still undergoing investigation. The repatriates are currently housed at a secure, undisclosed facility under the Interagency Council Against Trafficking for proper victim identification. They will receive financial aid, accommodation, medical and psychosocial support, legal assistance, and skills training from TESDA.
We stand ready to assist all 346, of course, subject to the processing of law enforcement of the DOJ, of the NBI, of PAOK, and the PNP. So, of course, pagka may natukoy na violator dyan, syempre, hindi na namin tutulungan. But we stand ready to help those, obviously, who will be cleared by our IACAT protocols.
Rest assured that while they were not initially identified as human trafficking victims, they will still undergo victim identification protocols. We will recognize the Thai Myanmar government-to-government repatriation protocol, and we hereby acknowledge the identification of these individuals as victims of trafficking.
Former Executive Secretary Vic Rodriguez dismissed his inclusion on Mon Tulfo's list of alleged destabilizers as a non-issue, saying he does not want to dignify it or respond to unverified claims. He stressed that questions should go directly to the list source to assess its credibility. Rodriguez also criticized the perception of guilt before proof, calling such accusations products of misinformed thinking meant to distract from widespread corruption. He added that corruption destabilizes organizations in government, private groups, or homeowners associations and can create instability if left unaddressed.
Sincerely and legally, non-issue sa akin eh. I do not want to dignify at ayoko mag-deny dahil wala ako i-deny, ayoko umamin dahil wala ako aminin. This is a non-issue for me as far as I am concerned. Dapat ang tanungin talaga yung source, how credible is the source, at ano yung basihan niya.
Former Senate President Juan Ponce Enrile remains in the intensive care unit. His daughter, Katrina Ponce Enrile, said in a Facebook post that the 101-year-old statesman is being treated for pneumonia. She added that he is under close medical supervision and is receiving the best care possible. The Enrile family thanked the public for their prayers and support while asking for privacy during this difficult time.
Metro Pacific Tollways Corporation has secured pre-effective approval from the Securities and Exchange Commission for its planned bond sale. The company will offer up to 15 billion pesos in fixed-rate bonds with an option to raise another 5 billion pesos. The issue will have tenors of 3, 5, or 10 years, and the public offer period is set from November 17 to 21. Proceeds will fund ongoing projects such as Cavitex, Calax, and the Lapu-Lapu Expressway, as well as refinance bridge loans and support corporate purposes.
PBA star Junmar Fajardo has donated his first MVP trophy to the Tulong Mga Kapatid Bayanihan Drive, a fundraising initiative aimed at helping those affected by the recent calamities. Other personal items from Kapatid stars, news anchors, and PBA players will also be up for sale. Fans are encouraged to join the live selling event on Friday at 7 p.m. on News 5's TikTok account. For those who wish to donate, the bank details and QR code are now flashed on your TV screen.
That is our Tulong Mga Kapatid Bayanihan Drive, or also known as the Mine for a Cause.
Donate,
diba? Nakabili ka na, nakatulong ka pa.
Donate and get an item in return.
Oo. Mali mo, yung surfboard ni Tito Alvin Pura, yung weather specialist ng News 5, isa yun sa mga nandoon. Mga gusto nyo matutong mag-surf, pwede nyo nabilin yun. And then also other items kanina flashed kanina dyan sa report.
Alright, and that wraps up today's episode of News and Views.
Join us again tomorrow. I'm Angela Lagunsad Castro.
And I am Angelo Castro III, kapatid. We are One News.
All sides, all the time.